Hi, I'm Meredith Jones of meredithj.com. I'm a virtual assistant and small business growth coach, and today I'm so excited to be here to present our second Small Business Spotlight. This month, we talk with Chrissy Marquardt of Webspired, and what she does is she's a WordPress developer who really focuses on small business owners and local business owners and giving them a presence online, which is so important for your business. I know that you will just love Chrissy's energy and enthusiasm, as well as the knowledgeable information that she shares with us. Her story was so inspiring to me, and really, I left with a grin on my face. I am part of a mastermind group with Chrissy, and she has just been so knowledgeable and so helpful, and I knew that her story would help inspire you. I hope you really enjoy this interview, and I hope that you really gain a lot out of it. Be sure to come back to meredithj.com for weekly tips, tricks, inspiration, and resources to help your business grow. And be sure to come back in December for our December Small Business Spotlight, which I know you'll love as well. Thank you so much for coming, and enjoy the interview. Okay, and today we have Chrissy. Hi, Chrissy. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I was hoping that you could tell us more about your business.
Sure. Well, I am a web designer and an online business strategist. I've just recently kind of rebranded in that sense. And basically what I do is I work with small business owners, small local and online business owners who need help with their online presence, specifically taking their online presence to the next level. And so, for example, you have a small business owner that pretty much only has a Facebook page. They don't have a website. They probably need one, but they really have no idea where to start or even how to go about doing that. And that's where I kind of come in and I can help to give them some guidance and some advice and consulting. And if it comes to it, actually help them to get a website set up and get it optimized for SEO, analytics, linking it back to their Facebook page, things of that nature. Same thing with local businesses, and really I'm finding that online business owners are also having a need for that too. I find that a lot of online entrepreneurs who are getting started, there's so much material out there. We live in a very information-dense world that it's overwhelming, and they're like, okay, where do I start? Where do I buy my domain? Where do I get my web hosting? Do I do WordPress? Do I do Squarespace? If I do WordPress, what theme do I use? What plugin? So they have all of these questions that, if not addressed sooner rather than later, can hold them back. And that's where I really find that I can come in and I can say, okay, here's, based on my experience, and here's what you can do. We can get you set up in pretty much half an hour with everything, and focus on what you do best, which is building your business, whatever that may be. So in a nutshell, I work with small local and online business owners to take their web presence to the next level, and that can be an array of various things depending on the need of the business. If that makes it, the very long-winded answer, but in a nutshell, that is what I do.
That's absolutely awesome. That is such a need. I know for me, and it may just be because I'm a web nerd, but the first thing I do when I'm checking out a new business is, well, what's their website? What's on their website? Do they have anything?
Absolutely.
And I get so disappointed when they don't have anything at all, and I'm like,
girl, absolutely.
You need a website.
Absolutely, it's you echoed my sentiments exactly, and I am also a fellow web nerd. That is the first thing that I do when I hear about a business. The first thing I'm like, I'm not like, oh, where's your Facebook page? I'm like, where's your where's your website? And when they don't have one, I'm like, oh man, seriously. And so yeah, there's definitely
like, let me just make one for you. Hold on.
Right, I want to do it. I'm so disappointed, and I so want them to have it. I'm like, let me do it for you, but then, of course, that's not always, you can't help everybody, So, but yeah, there is definitely, that's what I'm finding nowadays, because, the world that we live in, it's just changing. The way that you did business, even 5 years ago, not to mention 10, 15, 20, is just completely different. We are in a global economy, and my big mission, if I were to have a mission statement for my business, it would be, that I believe every small business owner, every business owner should have a online presence. And when I say online presence, it's not Facebook, because as you and I both know, Facebook, they change their algorithms every week, kind like Google. And even if you have a Facebook page and you post occasionally, you're not going to get the reach unless you're willing to pay out of pocket, which if you do pay out of pocket and you know what you're doing can be very successful, but that's a whole nother strategy. And so yeah, we're definitely in a different world, and that's really the core of what I do, is really to help people get online, or if they are online and they still feel overwhelmed, I can help to kind of refine and organize and make suggestions about whether you should be on Facebook or Pinterest, but having in mind that really the purpose is using social media as a means to drive traffic back to your web home. And so, but yeah, there's definitely a huge need for that, and I am finding that quite a bit.
Yes, there's definitely a need for experts like you who can just sort of break it down and say, this is what you need, this is how it's going to happen, and just do it for the people. So like you said, they can focus on their business and what they love, and not everybody loves web, so they don't need to love that for sure. Exactly. And they just need to focus on getting, almost like the website's almost like a business card these days, and you need to have a good one.
Absolutely, it's like you picked my brain or something. Yeah, website. Yeah, because that's I feel like the exact same way. Websites are basically your online business card. I mean, I've had clients that are when they have approached me, they're like, we are embarrassed about our website. We don't even want to show it to our customers or vendors, and that's stagnating their growth as a business. I'm like, no, and I kind of joke when I talk. I'm like, let's give you a fresh coat of paint. Let's give your website a makeover, so that way it's not embarrassing and it's something that you're proud of and that you would be more than happy to share with potential vendors or partners or customers, because it's your business card. So Absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Wonderful. Well, how did your business get started? How did you get started in this web design and strategy world?
I've always wanted to be in business for myself. I was one of those kids, and I'm a voracious reader, not as much as I used to because I have a business, a husband, and 2 children, life. But when I was younger, I would just read and read and read, and I was always just drawn to these books that, even though they were fictional, talked about, the main character just in this business entrepreneurial setting. And so when I was 10, I told my parents, I want to go to school in the United States and I want to study business. And they're like, okay then, because I'm backtrack. I'm from Jamaica, so I've been living in the United States for about 14 years, but I'm originally from Jamaica. And so when I got the opportunity to come here, of course, as I said, I studied business, but I had no idea what I wanted to do in business. I just knew that I wanted to be in my own business, and so that is the entrepreneurial piece of it. So ever since I was 10 years old. And then as far as the web design part of it, just like I said, I mean, I'm a web nerd. When the internet first really became huge back in the late 90s, I was one of the first ones in my high school class to get a Hotmail account. And, we got the AOL dial-up, and it was like such a big deal. Remember back in the day, Netscape was the search engine, and then it became Yahoo, and of course Google has taken over the world. But I've always been interested in how websites work and how they function. And, but I studied business in school. I have no formal training in web design. Everything that I've learned is pretty much self-taught and Googling, and I've read a few books as well here and there, but I haven't taken any official formal classes, but I plan to because it's definitely helpful. But anyway, after my husband and I got married in 2006, again, being from Jamaica, I had to wait to get a visa. I had to wait to get paperwork to work. It was about a 3-month period where I was not able to work because I didn't have the I didn't have the paperwork from immigration. And so, I was pretty much at home. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I'll take some classes. So I took a class in HTML and Photoshop, and that was my first introduction into kind of behind the scenes of building a website, and I loved it. I loved kind of figuring out everything and playing around with code and changing stuff around. And then I had an opportunity to actually build a website. My in-laws, we live on a farm here in Oregon. My in-laws have a Christmas tree farm, and they said, hey, we need a website, and you kind of sound like you know what you're doing, so can you hook us up? And I said, sure. And figuring everything out on my own, I fumbled through one-on-one hosting and got everything set up on a website template, just this hokey mom and pop awful website. But at the time, it looked great. It worked. That's what they needed, and that's pretty much what I could do at that time. And then I actually was able to get a real job, if you will, in the business world. I had thought about pursuing it back then, but my husband, he kind of discouraged me. He's like, you have a degree in business, we kind of just got married, we have student loan debt. Maybe you should actually, do the 9 to 5 thing. And I was young. I was 23. I was like, okay, sure. But it was always in the back of my mind, and I always kind of kept it, as a distant interest. Fast forward to 2012. So my second son was born, and I was at a place in my life where having children, as you will find, it really opens up your world, and it just changes everything. It really makes you take a step back and look at your life, and just kind of you figure out like what's important. And these kind of dreams in the back of my head of wanting to be in my own business and wanting to get into web design just really started to become more and more of a want in my life. And so my husband and I made some strategic decisions that after the birth of our second son, that I would not go back to work full time, that I would stay at home and basically start my own thing. And so after my son was born in 2012, we were able to do just that. We adjusted our lifestyle. We're very strategic in our finances, so we could live off of one income. And I didn't jump into it right away. After the baby was born, I just enjoy time being a stay-at-home mom, because I'd never done that up until that point. And while I was up late at night with the baby, I would kind of brainstorm and jot down notes. I have quite a few different notebooks just full of notes, just brainstorming. And I read Dave Ramsey's EntreLeadership. I'm a huge fan of him. It was because of his podcast that we're able to take action and adjust our lifestyle. Then he recommended John Acuff's book Quitter, and I read that book, and his whole thing was, if you want to find your dream job, just kind of ease into it. But one of the things that he said that stood out in my mind was kind of going back into your memory bank and thinking about things that you've maybe always wanted to do or have had a desire to do, but maybe at that particular moment it was not the most strategic decision. And so I read and I brainstormed and I soul searched, and then web design kind of popped up in the back of my mind. And I was like, okay, what? Yep, web design. And then I started looking into blogging, and then I discovered the world of WordPress. I'm like, oh my God, this is way better than coding websites from scratch. So I discovered WordPress. I discovered my rekindled an old flame about web design that I'd let burn out a while back. And pretty much in 2013 and then using WordPress, I redesigned my in-laws' website from the hokey, terrible mom-and-pop looking website, and it looks way better now. Thank goodness. But after fiddling around with WordPress, reading John Acuff's book, I'm like, okay, I can do this. And so basically in 2013 is when I started my business. It was Marquardt Creative Consulting at the time, and I chose that because I was coming from a corporate background, and so that's what I knew about business, and that's what I did. But I never really did anything much with it, because I did web design, but I noticed that the clients that I was attracting, just more based on my personality, did not align with how my website looked. It looked very good, and I spent a lot of time on it, but it was very it had a very corporate, impersonal feel, and that's not what I wanted. I'm like, okay, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I'm a work-at-home mom, I want to connect with people that are like me, that are in the online world, that are business owners, that are small, local, and are not corporate. And so, I started that, and then primarily kind of built my way up from there. And then in December of last year, I rebranded into Webspired, because that Webspired is basically web inspiration, and then I have a little twist on the spelling. So if you go to my website, Webspired, WEBSPYRED.com, the spelling is a little bit off, but that felt more like me, because I love the web. I'm a web nerd. I love to inspire and motivate people, and just seeing that how I help somebody in a way, whether it be with their website or the business strategy, is inspiring. To answer the other half of the question, as far as the business strategy, as I've gone through my journey, as I've read about, blogs and business owners and listened to podcasts like Smart Passive Income and things of that nature, and, reading how bloggers promote themselves, I noticed that there is, just like how we talked about how a lot of small business owners don't have an online presence, but a lot of small business owners are not doing an effective job, in my opinion, of promoting themselves and having consistent branding across the platform. I'll give you a real life example. So I recently just talked with a friend of mine who also used to work at the bank, also had a daughter, same thing, this was not working out, moved into a job that was more suited to her lifestyle. She's a single mom, so she does have to work. But anyway, she told me this amazing story about how she discovered Whole Foods, real foods, last year when her daughter had a seizure, and took her to a naturopath and realized that what they were eating could have potentially led to that. They did all the scans, the what do you call it, the CAT scans, MRIs, all that stuff, and they could never find out what the problem was. Anyway, Michelle took it from that to change the way that they were eating and started really eating more wholesome, healthy foods. But a part of that is, she's very much into herbs and natural medicines, and so people would make comments about, wanting to find a natural solution to, say, like Bengay, for example, and she was like, I could probably, she did her research, in determining, Whole Foods, and I could probably figure that out. Anyway, she started her own business making natural herbal remedies and healing solutions, like, a sore muscle rub, which is a natural solution to Bengay, because Bengay it stinks and it is powerful and it burns. My husband will not use it. Or a healing salve that you could use for eczema or a diaper rash, and it just these amazing things. And she has such a great story. And of course, my first question, girl, do you have a website? No. I'm like, okay, do you have a Facebook page? Yes. I'm like, all right, that's a start. I go onto her Facebook page. She has like 20 likes. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So I'm like, okay, are you on Pinterest? No. I'm like, oh. I said, okay, how about Etsy? No. And I'm like, you're kidding me. So taking that example, if we could get her a website with e-commerce integrated onto it, she could have a list of her products. She could sell directly from her website. She could charge people for ship, because she's busy. She was supposed to come to my son's birthday party, and she could not, because she's like, I am so busy. I have so many orders. And I'm like, you need to raise your prices, because So I just intuitively just found myself coming up with a strategy for her to, in the online world, getting her set up with WooCommerce on her website, getting her on Etsy, and capitalizing on that, because Etsy is all about handmade stuff, and that is like right up her alley, and everybody's into natural herbal healing stuff nowadays. Potentially partnering up with some of the other Facebook pages that are health and natural, and just kind of a promotion, writing blog posts, as opposed to giving away her recipe or her formulas for making her product. Talk about the different products, like how products are sold is you don't go door to door, like you talk about the uses and benefits of products, like here's how you can use this healing salve in all of these different ways. Here's how you can use these body oils and these benefits, and get on Pinterest. So I found myself just, every time I talk to a business owner, I find myself doing more than just engaging them and designing a website. I find myself talking about their branding and their strategy and promoting themselves, and give them ideas for their content and how they can talk to their customers, how they can find their ideal customers, questioners. And so this has been a recent discovery. This is something that I've really kind of discovered over the year, this past year, in the past few months, and it's something that I really would like to do more of myself. That's one of my future goals, is to do maybe less web design, more strategic consulting, or somehow incorporate that. But it's just a need that I find, because bloggers do an amazing job of promoting and marketing themselves, because they're online, they have to. But a lot of people who primarily do their work offline, I think, are missing out in the online world, because they have far more reach, they have far more potentials. How great is it that somebody in England can do business with somebody in the United States or Spain, or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of how I discovered that need for the strategic part of it. And I know that everybody has a different definition of business strategy, but that, for right now, that's mine. And so yeah, that's something that is relatively new, that I'm going to be incorporating into my business in the year, because I just found myself just doing it over and over and over again, and I'm like, you know what, I need to package this in a way that people can see that that's something that I offer directly on my site. And there's a need, and not because of the money, but there's a true need for that, and it will add value to their bottom line. Because what does every business want to do? They want to make money, they want to generate a living, they want to have more freedom and independence. And so really that's the main goal, but there's a strategic way to go about doing it. And so, yeah.
I love what your story really says about the entrepreneurial spirit and things like that, and finding those little pieces in your past that you really loved and bringing it together into a business that can help other people. And I love seeing that in other people and what they're able to do to reach out to other businesses, to other people who are out there working, to individuals who need a little extra in their life, that sort of thing. And it sounds like you definitely did that.
Yeah.
So what do you like most about being an entrepreneur?
The flexibility and the freedom. You know, when I was working a 9-to-5 job, and actually in my case it was 8:30 to 6:30, and a lot of Saturdays. I mean, you know, I worked in corporate banking for 5 years. I gave up a lot of Saturdays. I gave up a lot of my free time. You know, just. It was hard. It was a hard fight. I don't regret my time there. I learned so much about business and myself as a person. But when I had my first son, you know, my whole world just changed, and I was just like, I just did not want to go back to work. And so being able to be at home with my sons and, you know, having them wake up and there's no mad rush to get them off to sitter while I go to work and I'm gone all day. You know, I can be at home with them. I can, you know, play with them. I do a little bit of homeschooling with them. And if they do happen to go to sitter or with grandma, it's very infrequently, but they're with me the majority of the time. But I love the fact that I can work from anywhere. Like, I mean, some days I just, you know, when the boys are with grandma, I just go to a coffee shop and I work, and I love it because I get to meet all sorts of different people. And sometimes I will have calls at coffee shops and then people overhear me like, so what do you do? And I get to engage and meet with people. But the biggest thing I love is the flexibility and the freedom. The second thing I would add to that is just connecting with like-minded entrepreneurs. I mean, this year has been absolutely amazing in terms of my business support, because I always have the personal support. My husband, you know, loves me, supports me. He's seen me try all these different businesses. I've tried Mary Kay. I've done jewelry. I was gonna, you know, do like a mobile notary thing because I am actually a notary. You know, I've had all of these different business ideas. I've even like bought stuff, you know, like, oh, buy this and you'll make $5,000 online, you know, back in the day when it was more of a scam. You know, so I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, but I love the flexibility, I love the freedom, and I love I've always had the personal support, but, you know, what I was really lacking last year that I have this year is the business support. And what I mean by that is I made it a goal this year to really get outside my box, my comfort zone, and just start interacting with more people online. And so, you know, Meredith, you and I know each other from originally from a Facebook group, the Bootstrap VA, and, you know, just engaging and being helpful and like answering people's questions. You know, then you know, then they reach out to me, I reach out to them, and it's just been great. It actually has helped to give me continual motivation to do what I do, because, you know, as much as we love our friends and family, you know, if they're not doing what you're doing in terms of being a business owner or even being an online business owner, they really can't relate to your struggles. I mean, they're happy for you when you're successful, whether that be getting a new client or maybe increasing your prices and not having everybody run away, you know, or being able to start like something successful. You know, they're happy for you, but they don't really get it. And so having that business support has given me so much inspiration and a lot more motivation to continue doing what I'm doing, because there are those times where you feel down. And so to answer your question, the flexibility and the freedom of being able to work from wherever I want, being with my family when I need to be, but also just being able to connect with people from literally all over the world that are doing what I'm doing, but in a different way. And it's because I love engaging and talking with people. And so those are probably my two favorite things, is just the connections and the flexibility.
Absolutely, yeah. It's amazing what the internet and the growth of the internet has really allowed us to do,
right,
as far as create our own business, create our own flexibility, and to do things that, you know, 20 years ago a woman or a man would not be able to do without heavy investment and without things like that. You know, we can just jump in and really beat our own path and find our own way. And
absolutely.
with that freedom and flexibility. I agree completely.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like, I mean, I just, again, kind of going back to, my audience who are, small local and online business owners, but, particularly the small business owner piece, a lot of people still think that to start your business, that they need to go get a loan. They need to go get a small business loan and borrow tens of thousands of dollars. And, back in the day, I used to think that way too. But, in particular, after reading EntreLeadership and just being in the online world, it's just like, no, you really don't need to do that. I mean, there are some initial costs, for example, buying a website domain and setting up hosting and maybe buying a few materials to kind of get you going. But, I mean, really, once you get going and you kind of establish yourself and you figure out your niche and you get that first client, I mean, those little small investments that you make, that first client should pretty much take care of that. And then go from there. But I mean, you don't need a physical storefront. You don't need to have tens of thousands of dollars. Like, what I tell people, go make some money in your business. And if that's what you want to do, then maybe consider that. I mean, but whatever you spend, you should be getting a return on your investment, and not just breaking even, but getting a profit back. Because then you've got something there. And so, yeah, the internet is just it is amazing what people can do nowadays. And what's another thing that is interesting too is people are doing well and being more successful in a shorter period of time. Again, fast forward to, or not fast forward, like, going back, 10 years ago, even if somebody had reached a certain level of success, I mean, it would have taken them a significantly longer time unless they did something innovative, like create, iPods or iPhones or something, but yeah, it's just, it's amazing. So the world that we are in nowadays, there is more opportunity than ever, and people just need to take the bulls by the horn and just go for it.
Absolutely. What do you feel the biggest challenge you faced in growing your business is?
For me, time management and being stubborn. And so what I mean by that is when I was in college, I was a procrastinator. I pretty much waited until the last minute to do everything. And being an adult, being a mother and a husband, and trying to wait to do that is just not feasible at all. And so that time management has been a huge struggle for me. I've gotten a lot better. Am I perfect? No, but I found that I have to constantly try and adapt and change new things. So, for example, in the past, what I would do is I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do my workouts, and then pretty much do my work during nap times or when the boys were in bed, and sometimes even have them go to a sitter so I could get work done. And then after a while, I kind of felt bad about that, because I'm like, well, the point of me being able to be a work-at-home mom is so that I can be with my kids. There are mom bloggers who have 3 kids and they're homeschooling and they're making 6 figures and they don't have their kids go to a sitter. So what am I doing wrong? But I found that I was not managing my time correctly. That's what I was doing wrong. And so I started to read some books. I think I recommended this to you earlier, Amy Lynn Andrews' Tell Your Time. That was a really good book for me, because I loved how she explained it and kind of broke things down into, well, let's look at your life goals and break those down, and then put your life goals broken down into kind of like those to-dos, and put that on your schedule and kind of plan your day out. And so I would have this chunk of time, but I would not really have a specific game plan or a plan of action. Like, I would kind of try and do everything at one time. And I definitely suffer from that overload superwoman syndrome, where I would make this to-do lists that were 20 items long, try and multitask and do 10 of them at one time. And you know what? That just does not work. You get tired, you get burnt out, and at the end of the day, you really have not accomplished anything. And so I was listening to a podcast by Pat Flynn, and he said he had an episode, and he said something that just really struck me, and it is absolutely true. Even though it is counterintuitive, it is actually a lot more effective to focus on one thing at a time and get that one thing done, and then move on to the next, as opposed to trying to do 5 different things at one time, because we feel more productive, we feel like we're multitasking, but it's actually counterproductive. And so that was a hard lesson for me to learn, because I think that's just kind of the natural human instinct, is to do multiple things at one time, thinking that it's more effective and productive, when it is actually not. So I had to learn how to do that. I had to learn how to plan out my day, and said, okay, if I have, and then I also read, I think Crystal Payne from Money Saving Mom had like a free ebook that kind of talked about time management, because she is that mom blogger that has 3 kids and she homeschools and just does very well. I love her. She's amazing and just has done wonderful things for the online world as far as I'm concerned. And she talked about that. And actually, it was reading her book that got me into the habit of waking up early. I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, kind of just like you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do your work. And I have actually adjusted my schedule where I am now getting up early, and instead of doing my workout, I'm doing work because my son is in school. And, I find that my brain is at its best in the morning, and so I actually am more effective and faster in the morning rather than in the afternoon or late at night when pretty much all of my energy is gone. And so I've had to constantly kind of change and adjust my schedule to make it work for me. And, there's sometimes in the evenings when hubby comes home, like, okay, just give me 2 hours, hang out with the kids, let me just try and get a couple things done that, like, absolutely need to be done. And so, so it just prioritizing my time, learning to kind of have a routine or a schedule of like getting up at a certain time of the day, focusing on a couple of things, making a list of things to do, and then breaking it down. And so as opposed to making a list of things to do every single day, I kind of plan out my week, and I said, okay, what are the maybe 10 things that I need to get accomplished for this week. And I end up having more than 10 things, but then I've learned to prioritize, like, okay, if there's one thing that has to be done, what is it? And then I go from there. And so that has helped me significantly. I've also recently started actually writing out weekly, in tandem with that, I've also started writing out my weekly goals and monthly goals too. And so at the end of every month, I kind of take some quiet time for myself, and I just kind of take 2 hours of time, and I just like plan out what my goals are for the month. I probably don't get all of it accomplished, but at least it's out of my head and written down, because if it's in my head, it's not going to happen. I mean, there have been things that have been in my head for months, and when I finally got it out on a piece of paper, it visualized it, it brought it to life. And so that is how I've been handling my time management. Like I said, I've just recently adjusted my schedule, and so far I'm actually liking working in the morning and then doing workout in the afternoon, because I have to kind of prioritize. I'm like, okay, would I rather get the workout done, or would I rather get some client work done and then focus on other things as well too? So, but it still continues to be a struggle, because it's like, okay, how do I take care of my clients and then blog at the same time and then be on social media and then develop my business and then do my bookkeeping and then take care of the admin stuff? And so that for me is still a balance, but I am finding more and more that I have to make the time for it, or maybe even take a day just to focus on something that's not client work, because before I would just do client work, and that's good, but that's kind of like a hamster spinning its wheel, like you're not really growing in any way. And a part of that too is my prices, is learning to that it's okay to sometimes charge more because of the value and time that you're saving them from doing this themselves. And so that's something I'm also working on. And so I mentioned that time management was a major struggle, and then I said something else, and I can't remember what it was. What did I say? It was the second thing. I forgot it.
I know you were talking about time management and sort of figuring out, where your priorities lie and things like that. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I said something else too, and I forgot what it was. But no, time management is definitely probably the biggest struggle, is just trying to figure out how to do everything, at the same time. And so, but it is something that I'm definitely working on, and I'm getting better at it, for sure, because I know I'm going to have a certain amount of time in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and potentially even after the kids are in bed. And so I just things like not watching TV. I don't watch TV. I don't get sucked into a YouTube hole. I'm on my phone a little bit here and there, but I don't play games. All of the major distractions that most people have, I don't have. My issue is that I want to do so much at one time. It's a matter of prioritizing like what needs to be done first. And so the typical time management issues that people, I'm like, that's like not even on my radar. I mean, and so but yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that I struggle with as a business owner and as a mom is, time management. But I'm definitely getting better and find that balance. And, if I could give a piece of advice to anybody, it's just, it's really trial and error. Some people I know stay up till, after the kids are in bed. That's when their energy bunny, their Energizer bunnies inside come on and they can work till 3 o'clock in the morning. I could probably do that, but my kids get up at 6:37, and so that probably would not be the best thing to be functioning off of 3 hours of sleep. And so, maybe when they're older and in school, but you have to be flexible, and you have to adjust and figure out like what works, and understand that you can't do everything at one time. You can't pile 20 things on your to-do list. It doesn't work, but really planning out my monthly goals, and then from there I know what I need to accomplish each week, and then from there I know what I need to accomplish every single day. That has been a game changer for me, because I know I can actually see myself making progress and checking things off, and that thing that I wanted to do in the back of my head for months, it's on a piece of paper, and to get it checked off, it's a win. And so I know I said something else about what the other struggle is, but obviously time management is the biggest one. But there's lots of resources in there. You just have to be flexible and try different things. If you want something you've never achieved, you've got to try something you've never tried before. So, yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciate you sharing that. I know, speaking to entrepreneurs, it seems like time management is one of the absolute biggest things that is a challenge for all of us. And it's so hard when you're sort of looking at some people in the web world, and like you said, they have the perfect life, and you're like, how do they do all of this and manage this perfect life and things like that? And maybe you don't see the team behind them, maybe you don't see the virtual assistant, or you don't see the web designer, or maybe they just have really great ways of strategizing and things like that. So I really appreciate it when people are open and honest about those struggles and how they're overcoming them, because it is a really big challenge, especially we get so passionate about our businesses, and we want to work on them all the time, but we also don't want to let go of those priorities that are in our life, which is the reason that we're being entrepreneurs to start with.
Exactly. If I ever find myself doing that, I always have to remind myself, like, what is the why behind what I'm doing? And it goes beyond helping people, but it's because I can be with my family. And and I have learned to actually not compare myself to people. I mean, I still do it a little bit because that's just human nature. But there was actually a time I still am in that period where I have unsubscribed to just a lot of people, because getting their emails and seeing what they're doing, it's almost overwhelming. And it's perfectly okay to do that, especially if you're a newer entrepreneur. You're gonna feel like dirt. If you are starting out, you're not doing stuff right, and you see somebody who is in your industry, but they are on top of the world, or doing podcasts, or being asked to come speak. They are making a great amount of money online. They're doing they're donating to Pencils of Promise, and so I've learned that aspire to that, certainly, but right now when you're starting out, like, or even kind of still in your beginning stages, like, don't compare yourself, because it's not going to do you any good. And so I'm in this point where, like, I've kind of unsubscribed to a lot of people that I admire and respect and would aspire to be, but I just have to kind of figure out my own thing. And then when I'm kind of more in their ballpark, it's like, okay, I'll keep up with you right now. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I know that sounds sacrilegious, but you know what? There's only so much that you can do and take in as a busy entrepreneur and business owner. And so you just have to kind of pick and choose what's going to help me right now. Like, I love Marie Forleo. I think she is amazing. I can't handle her daily video emails. And I know that sounds sacrilegious. I follow her on Facebook. I follow her on Twitter, and that's good enough for me right now. And maybe next year I'll do B-School, but I daily emails from people, I cannot. I can't handle it. My inbox can barely handle it, and so I pick and choose who is going to help me right now, and who's going to just in time learning, as I think Pat Flynn say. And so
Absolutely, I completely agree. I find myself having to take like a podcast detox. I love podcasts, but I find myself having to take a detox about once a month, where I just go a few days without listening to any wonderful business podcasts.
Absolutely, same. Just put on some music instead, and just kind of get something else into your brain. So get some music in your system, do a little shake, and then you can go back to the podcast.
Exactly. What advice would you have for others that are working to grow their business?
people do what Meredith is doing. She's amazing. I wish, Meredith, that I had your drive and ambition when I was pregnant with my first son. You know, I think that what you're doing, you know, being able to do this podcast, manage clients, you know, pregnant with your first child, all while working a full job, to me, that is amazing. You know, so obviously you know, you may have your struggles, but girl, you're doing something right. You know, you're obviously
Well, thank you so
good at
much.
you're obviously very good at managing your time. And so, you know, my advice would be, you know, just don't give up. Like, I mean, just start. You know, we are, and I'm saying that especially, you know, being an immigrant coming from another country and being able to live here, and, you know, you could wake up today or tomorrow, when you start, you hopefully you're already awake, you know, unless you're working like a night shift or something, I don't know, taking a nap, but, you know, you could wake up tomorrow morning and say, I'm going to be in business today. You could go online to, depending on what state that you're in, you could go online and register your sole proprietor, your LLC, go to the IRS, get a tax ID number, and you're good to go. Buy your domain, buy your website, and it's like, it's not, the barriers to entry to become an entrepreneur, to become a business owner in the United States are like so low. In other countries, it's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more, you know, hoops that you have to jump through. So there's no barrier to entry to start. So just start. Figure things out. Learn. I was listening to another podcast I'm a fan of called the guys from the Fizzle Show, and they had I think it was Nathan Barry on, and you know, he said learn. I think it was like learn, teach, earn. And so, you know, just learn as much as you can, network with other people, get uncomfortable, step outside your comfort zone. You're not going to have the answers right away. You're not going to get it right the first time. Heck, you might not even get it right the 10th or 20th time, but if you don't give up and you keep trying and you figure it out and you stick for it for the long haul, you will become successful. And so that is my advice. And you know, just again, I think that what you're doing, you know, obviously you don't have to be, you know, doing a business while, you know, you're working a full-time job, but honestly, that's what a lot of people are doing nowadays, and I think that that's absolutely amazing. And you know, if I had your drive and your ambition when I was pregnant with my first child, I mean, who knows where I would be right now? But I don't have any regrets. You know, I'm still learning just like you are, and it's only going to get better from here. So yeah, that would be my advice. Is just start. There is no barriers to entry, and just continue just to strive and push through it. And you know, another thing I would advise as well, to try it sooner rather than later. I would really try and connect with people. Sorry, that's my husband in the background. I would try and connect with people who are, you know, in your realm, like, you know, kind of like how we have our mastermind group. Just connect with people that are on your same level or even above your same level, and just connect with them, learn from them, you know, be helpful, and add value to people, especially when you're just starting out and you're pretty much an unknown. Enjoy that time as well. I kind of like being relatively unknown right now, because I'm not ready for the world to know who I am. I can't handle that right now. I'm aiming to get to a point where I am ready for the world to know who I am, but I kind of like being in the unknown territory right now, because I'm still kind of working on tweaking and refining my art and refining who I am and what I do. I'm becoming an expert. I'm learning, but I'm still tweaking and refining. And so, you know, just connect with people that are kind of in that space. But if you want to connect with people that are maybe kind of like in the I guess, what do you call it, like the A players, if you will. You know, add value, be helpful, don't ask for anything in return initially, and then over time they'll come to recognize you and then want to connect with you. The other piece of advice that I would give is not to be a perfectionist. I am a perfectionist, and sometimes it's good because you want to be excellent, but a lot of times it does more harm than good. If you wait until everything is perfect, like your all T's are crossed, if all I's are dotted, if everything is aligned properly, if you wait, you will never get anything out there, whether it be your website or your podcast or your ebook or your e-course or your coaching program or your handmade product. If you wait until it's perfect, you're never going to get anywhere, because part of the great thing about being in business and being in the world that we live in is that people are okay with you not having the very best, because we live in a very innovative world. You know, look at Apple. I mean, they just came out with the iPhone 6, for crying out loud. I mean, they first came out with the first iPhone in 2007, and there were problems. You know, there were tweaks, there were software updates and things that were broken, and they have refined their process over time. You know, you don't necessarily need to invent the wheel. You know, just find a way of making it better. So that would be my advice: is start. Don't be afraid of technology. Don't let that be an excuse to get you going. You know, work on finding your niche, finding, you know, somewhere that you can add value. Don't obviously go to an overcrowded niche. Could try step outside your comfort zone. Find some good Facebook groups and connect with people that are kind of having your same struggles or along your way. That's really how I have grown, is just joining Facebook groups that align with what my interests are from a business and personal perspective. And add it, you know, when you're in those groups, don't spam people. People don't like spam. You'll get deleted. You know, add value, be helpful. Make suggestions. If you know something, jump in and answer. You know, it might seem like it's a waste of time because you're not getting a direct sale from it, but you're establishing yourself as an expert in your field, and you are building future relations. Don't compare yourself to the A players, because if you do that, you're going to feel very small. It's okay to follow them and aspire to be like them and see what they do and whenever they have advice, but don't compare yourself to them, and don't get caught up in the statistics, you know. And so yeah, that would be my top. Those would be my top advices, you know. And add value to people. Don't get caught up in perfectionism. Be helpful. Don't compare yourself to other people, and just start. And don't give up. If you fail 5 times, you know what? Just try again for the 6th time. I mean, somebody said that you have to practice your craft for at least 10,000 hours before you become an expert. So just think about that. And you know, nobody gets it right the first time. Nobody's an overnight success. The people that are overnight successes, quote unquote, have been doing what they're doing for like a long time. It's just that because they've been doing it for so long, over time they have grown, or their reputation has grown organically. And so that's my advice, is yeah, so start, add value, join groups, step outside your comfort zone, don't be a perfectionist. Don't compare yourself to the A players, and just don't give up. Focused intensity.
That's brilliant advice that I think a lot of us have learned the hard way, and I think those that take your advice to heart will really be able to grow their business much more quickly than those of us who have to learn it by falling down or by getting discouraged and getting downtrodden.
Absolutely. Oh, I remember the other thing I said. I said my issue was being stubborn. Don't be stubborn. It's okay to ask for help. But, you know, I'm one of those people, I'm like, no, I can do it myself. I'll figure it out. You know, that really held me back a lot in 2013. And in 2014, I've kind of learned to let go of that and just admit, especially because part of what I do is I do websites. There's a lot of coding and customizing and tweaking involved, and I know a lot, but I'm not the best developer or coder in the world by any means, and I'm okay with that because I'm still learning. See, I'm not comparing myself to anybody because I'm still learning. But you know what? Can I crank out a website with make it look good? Yes, I can. But yeah, so don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, you would be surprised at how many other people have the same question, and if you never ask, you'll never know the answer. So don't be stubborn. Don't stick up your nose and say, oh, I can figure it out on my own, because you know what? Most of the time you probably can't. The people that are successful did not do it on their own. It takes a village, and so you need to be okay with asking for help, you know, because then when people reciprocate that and ask you for help, you help them, they will be grateful. And so that's probably the other final piece of advice, is it's okay if you're struggling to ask for help, you know. And believe me, when you do go into groups and you're helpful and you are interactive and you add value, when you in turn ask for help, it will come back to you. So it's about it really in the online business world, I think, or in business in general. I think reciprocity is definitely a big key. So yeah.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Well, it has been so wonderful talking to you tonight, and you've had so much wisdom to share with all of us. How can people find you when they want to know more about your business and more about you? Where can they locate you on the web?
So I am at webspyred.com, and I will spell that again. It's WEBSPYRED.com. I'm also on Twitter at Chrissy Marquardt, and I'll spell that. Sorry, my last name's hard to pronounce. And actually, the D is out of that one. Haha. So it's just ChrisssyMarquart, Chrissy Marquardt on Twitter. You can also find my business page on Facebook, and it's just facebook.com/web, W-E-B, Spired, S-P-Y-R-E-D. So those are kind of some places that I hang out to. If you follow me on Facebook or Twitter, or you might find me on Pinterest. And so, but yeah, my website, webspired.com, facebook.com/webspired. I'm also on Twitter at Chrissy, Marquart. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Chrissy, and I'm just so excited to share your wisdom with our audience and to let people share in your story and your success. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, you too, Meredith.